All right, hello guys. So for today, I'll be talking about how is AI used. Specifically talking about learning agents to be more specific. I'm pretty much going to be talking about pretty much what it is, like a little background, and kind of like how to build an AI agent, kind of just like steps or like brief background information to kind of get you guys started into how you could actually create it. I just want to introduce myself before getting started. My name is Adrian Flores Aquino. This video is for week 11 for my class CS 4540, which is learning agents in learning environments. So, like I said before, I'm gonna kind of get you guys introduced to what an AI agent is if you guys aren't too familiar with them or haven't really heard of them at all. It's pretty much what's being used a lot at this moment in this current time. So, it's pretty useful depending how you actually use it. And well, pretty much what an AI agent is, it's a system that perceives its environment and takes action to achieve a specific goal. It pretty much gathers data from sensors or input sources, so it could take data from a text, such as having a question that you're asking it, an image, which is you inserting an image, and maybe you're asking to read the image, or maybe if it's like a screenshot of something, maybe it might actually be able to read the question that's in the image and even real-time feedback. So depending on what you're asking, if you're asking for feedback or how you could actually do something in real time, it'll pretty much answer based on how you're asking it. It all depends on how you actually format your input because if you're not specific with your input or if you're like not too like if you're giving it a in general type of input, which is like if even if I'm not able to understand what you're giving it, it will not give you a good output based on what you're asking it. So when it comes to decision making, it uses algorithms or models to process input and decide on the best course of action. And when it comes to the action, that the agent pretty much performs tasks or outputs based on its decision, which is such as replying a question, or it could even move a robot arm, for example, if you're to program it in that way. And for the learning, agents can actually improve their behavior over time using machine learning from past experiences. And they're pretty much designed to optimize or achieve a specific goal, which is answering your questions, or if you're playing a game with it, or programming it to play a game. Its its final goal would pretty much be to actually win the game. One thing to actually remember about AI agents is that even though if it gets the answer wrong, like if it outputs an answer incorrectly, um, this is very important to remember. But even if it is wrong, it won't actually admit that it is wrong since its prompt is pretty much to always be confident and to sound like if it knows what it's talking about. So even if it's wrong, it might not actually sound like it. Uh, but be sure to actually read carefully on what it's actually outputting because even if it's wrong, it'll still sound confident in its wrong answer. So that's important to remember. And to actually get started on how to build a AI agent, the first thing you would actually have to do is use a higher level markdown document for context. So what I mean by this is actually create and manage markdown files for planning, installation instructions, and documents and tasks. So these documents pretty much provide an essential context to the large language model or LLM in this case, and they can be useful if starting a new conversation to quickly make the LLM catch up to speed and the project. The actual AI can help create and manage the included files. So some examples could be to include a planning.md or include a task.md. So with these two files, the planning MD could be pretty much used for a higher level vision, architecture, constraints, tools, or etc. And with this, you could actually prompt the AI to use this file at the beginning of any new conversation. So pretty much to reference the file to actually be able to start up the conversation, how to start it off. For the file taskmd, it's pretty much used for tracking done and pending tasks. So it could prompt the LLM to automatically update and create tasks as well. So along the way, when you're asking it questions and it's giving you outputs, it'll actually pretty much create other tasks at the same time. So every time to remember a specific output or store the generated output to give somewhere, it could actually create it in the background. Some tips before implementing would be avoid overwhelming the LLM. Be specific with your request, which is what I was talking about earlier, and ask the AI to write tests before actually fully committing to it. So when talking about avoiding overwhelming the LLM, it's a crucial role because longer context or more complex requests increase the likelihood of the LLM hallucinating or producing poor results. So like I was saying before, if you're not in detail with what you're asking it, it might not actually give you a great response. Or if it's too complicated, it might not be able to understand it fully, which it might give you a poor result. And you should also keep the files that you use under 500 lines. And you should ask the AI to implement one new thing per prompt. So don't ask it to implement everything all at once because it might crash or it might just be super slow in general. When it comes to being specific with your request, you should provide detailed information about the technologies, libraries, and desired output. So, like I was saying before, just be very specific with what you're asking it, and because it could help the AI understand exactly what you're looking for. And if you're not, then it's obviously not going to be pretty much used to its full potential. And what I mean by ask the AI to write tests, it's very important for achieving a consistent high quality output. So you could request a test after every new feature the AI implements. So in this case, you could actually create global rules for testing to prevent future errors. So you could pretty much just tell it to test something out before actually creating a new feature. Or when you do create a new feature, you could ask the AI to pretty much just run its own test to actually see if it actually works. And if it does work, then you're good to go on to the next step. When it comes to environmental variables, those are the things you actually implement yourself. Um, the reason for this is because you shouldn't really fully trust the LLM to actually create your stuff and actually handle everything in the project. So when it comes to sensitive stuff, that's something you should actually do manually and something that you should be knowing how to do. So some examples on the LLM to not be trusted with are API keys, database credentials, or securing your project. In this case, you would actually have to understand security concepts yourselves and ensure the project is secure because pretty much AI cannot be fully relied on. So even if you're using ChatGPT to create something, it might give you something to work with and run, but in the end is not fully secure, you know? So it's just pretty much just giving you these things, but it's not really thinking about security, how it's actually implemented, and it might not actually be fully good, right? And when it comes to the global rules, you should actually set that up or system prompts. So these are high-level instructions for the AI coding assistant that apply automatically without needing to be repeated in every prompt. So this pretty much functions like a system prompt. You're pretty much telling the AI agent, so okay, pretend you're a professor and let's say the student is asking you questions, so respond in a formal manner where you are talking to a student in this case and not in an informal way. So it's just an example like that. Depending what you actually give the AI agent for its prompt, it'll pretty much base its answers depending on the prompt. So depending where you try to talk formal, talk as if we're friends, talk as if you're a researcher, a scientist, it'll specifically adjust to that prompt. And when it comes to workspace rules, they're often recommended as they can be tailored to the project specific technologies and requirements. Moving on, um, when it comes to actually creating the AI agent, you would actually have to configure and utilize MCP servers. So what I mean by MCP is modular code platform, and with these servers, they provide tools that extend the capabilities of the AI IDE. And with this, it allows the AI to perform the actions like interacting with the file system, searching the web, and using Git. So this is kind of like if you're using ChatGPT, it wouldn't interact with the file system itself. Oh, with the better example would actually be using Windsurf because it's actually able to interact with the file system. It's able to search the web and use Git. So depending on what you're asking it to do, it might actually adjust some of the files that you have or pretty much delete or add some new ones. Some recommended core servers that are actually uh, recommended is the file system, which is to access other folders and projects. The Brave search, which is a powerful web search and documentation retrieval, that's what it's used for. And for Git, that's another recommended one, which is for version control and backups. And this one's actually highly recommended to save project states and allow reverting projects if AI tends to break. So if you're to implement something and in the end it ends up crashing, you could always go back to a previous version that you had where it was fully running and then just redo it again. You would also have to create an initial prompt. So the initial prompt is actually critical as it sets the starting point for the project. Even with planning documents and global rules, being very specific and providing examples is a very important, or in this case, golden rule. Documentation and examples can be provided through built-in IDE features such as accessing documentation, web search through a MCP server, or manually providing links or text. So, like I was mentioning before, a prompt is pretty much what you're telling the AI agent to do. So, giving it an initial prompt to start off the conversation, this is very important depending on how you actually want the AI agent to respond and be friendly towards the user. These are some extras, but highly recommended. Uh, it's very important to use version control, such as Git, very frequently, because after a successful step or multiple steps, or even before a significant new feature that you're adding, you should be activating Git to commit changes. So this pretty much creates backups that allows you to easily revert to a working state if the AI introduces breaking changes. Another thing that's recommended is write documentation and comments as you're implementing new things. So you could pretty much have the LLM consistently update documentations files such as the README file, and you could add comments within the code. This could pretty much be done all on the language model itself. If you tell it to do it, it will be able to do it, which is very important because it could help you and the AI understand the code base as development progresses. So with every new feature, you could tell the language model to pretty much create instructions or comments on what was added or how it actually works. And when looking back at it, or even with the language model, it's easier to understand, especially for you if you're specifically telling the language model to do everything for you. It's better for you since you're able to actually understand it based on the comments it creates. But even if it creates a README file, it actually allows you and other users that might use it in the future to get a better understanding of it. And that should pretty much be it for this topic. And thank you for your time. And leave any feedback if you actually have any feedback. I really appreciate the feedback since it helps me improve how I could make other videos better.